Recording in progress.
Yes.
It has to let us know that it's recording. That's the rule.
It's nice. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, state law differs in different places, I'm sure. But hey, everybody out there, all of you listeners, this is The Broken Brain. I'm Dwight, back with you again. Super, super excited today. I am joined by the stars and directors of Playdate, Amberlee Colson and Laura Campbell. Playdate's a short film that is world premiering at the Dallas Film Festival on the 28th. I think that's this Saturday from when we're recording. Exciting. Now, the description I have is it says it's a story that follows two mothers forging an unexpected connection on the 1-year anniversary of a school shooting, reliving the precious moments of their daughter's final play date. And I got to watch this. This is a fantastic film that really captures this really complicated issue. So I'm super excited to share that with all of you out there. So first of all, Amberlee and Laura, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here.
One of the things that I found powerful, well, there's a lot of things I found powerful about the film. You guys are the stars and directed the film as well, as I said. And one of the things that I thought was very powerful was was your names, actually, the names of the characters. And we'll get into that a little. First of all, I should give you a chance, though. You tell people about the film. You should give your own intro. I read the press release.
We loved your intro.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Well, you're guys who wrote it.
It's a great description. Yeah, I mean, what you said was it. It's two women reuniting, on the year anniversary of a very tragic event. And they have a surprising connection when they start to reenact their daughter's last day together. And yeah, it's going to be on Saturday at 8 p.m. and Sunday at 1:15 at the Violet Crime Theater in Dallas.
Yes, Auditorium
Yes.
2.
It's really great. I've been able to be a bit of a part because I've been, but I'm virtual. I couldn't get to Dallas to actually be on the ground, but talking to people and getting some of these wonderful screeners. And so let me ask you about this, just hitting it off, the names of your characters I thought was very interesting. And I don't know if you have any insights as to how those were chosen. Amberlee, you play, your character name is Host, right? And Laura, yours is Guest, as you're coming over to the host's house. Anything you can share about those choices?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this script came to me about 4 years ago. So it's been workshopped a lot. And when we, as as I've been told and many times and have experienced through this process, a movie is kind of written 3 times. You have the script, and then you have what happens on the day, based on locations, changing of crew, anything like that, schedule. And then you have the edit. So it's sort of not written until it's edited fully. And for us, when we started seeing what we had and working through what these women meant, in our minds, they have names, in our actors, how we know who they are, we know what their names are, we know where they're from, all of that. But for this piece, because their names are never mentioned, we wanted to really highlight the names of the children. First and foremost, the children's names, Beth and Jenny, are the only names that are mentioned in the piece itself. And then to really highlight the idea of the play date, right? So there's a party, there's a guest, and there's a host. And to also reference the fact that this could be anybody. You could put your name on these people and have this experience. It's not far away from all of us.
That's what I loved about it, was that, yeah, it makes it more accessible to people. And I think anyone out there, I'd be very surprised. I don't like to paint with a broad brush, but I'd be surprised if anyone hasn't felt some of this nervousness about sending our children to school, especially, obviously the day or week or month after. But when you're living in a time and a nation where we're getting reports of these shootings basically all the time, some of them don't even make it to the front page anymore. And I thought you guys captured that in a way of, here's two people who not only have that fear, but have lost their children, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was interesting, now, Amberlee, you play the host who Laura's character is coming over to your house where the final play date took place, right? It was a play date and sleepover. One of the things I thought was very interesting was how you showcased the guilt that the host feels at being the one to take them to school, right? I wonder if you could share a little bit about how you portrayed that.
Yeah, I mean, the all we could do, Laura and I, when we were prepping, is just saturate ourselves with watching countless documentaries and interviews and, just trying to get inside this world, this unimaginable terror. And so the survivor's guilt right out of the gate when I read Gavin's script was so apparent and so visceral. I mean, I feel fortunate that obviously I've not lived the host's life. Excuse me, I just gave away my secret name, my actor full name.
Breaking news here on the podcast.
Oh my God, spoiler alert. So to answer your question, I was talking, Laura and I were actually talking about this, like the guilt feels so heavy and burdensome and the way you fault find, like the way when what I found when I was working on this is, it almost felt the guilt was so heavy that I was responsible for deciding that her daughter go to school that day. And it felt like what was coming up was just this, let me pain myself. So how do I make it you not be in pain? And I think that's so human to do these weird mental gymnastics to make sense of things that don't make sense. So I don't know, to answer your question as far as like how I did it, I just felt like we just kept taking on these imaginary circumstances and guilt feels so human and, I know how to connect to that, so I'm not answering your question, but it feels.
Oh, I think you are. Yeah.
Universal. You know what I mean? Like guilt unfortunately is so real, but this kind of guilt is just so heavy and.
Absolutely. You do it. Yeah. No, that's a great answer because of carrying that in. I felt, having worked with so many people with so many different kinds of trauma over the years, I really saw that portrayed in both of you from the different perspectives. I should add, I think I made it sound like both of the children had perished. Your character's daughter is still alive in the story. She doesn't appear.
Correct.
In fact, there's a birthday party set up as Amberlee Laura, as your character comes in, right? You see all of that, and that added a whole level of complexity. I felt as well.
Good, yeah, good.
I felt like one of the strengths of the show too is that your character, Laura, never says "I forgive you." Now, she never says those words. She just says, I don't want to talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. But I wonder if you guys have feelings about that. Well, the reason I feel like it's a strength, because that's sort of that would be an easy thing to fall into, and maybe a longer film would have to address that, but just saying that's not that simple.
Yeah, it's not that simple, right? And it felt very real to us. And that I think a historical nature of these two women, they were friends before this. Their daughters were friends before this, right? This event has created a wedge of complications that you can imagine. And I think for this idea of forgiveness, we talked a lot about this. There is no resolution to these things, right? There is no forgiving. There is no, this tragedy is the most unimaginable thing I can fathom. And I think for these two friends to see each other in these moments and to hold each other, to hear what her guilt is and just be there with it instead of trying to get rid of it, trying to fix it, trying to make it okay for her, I think is probably one of the most powerful and friendly things you can do for somebody. Because it's not about making me feel better by forgiving you. It's about you feel that. Mm-hmm. And it's completely natural for her to feel that. And I'm sure, I mean, in the work that I did as the character, there is blame. Blame flies around, it goes from this person to this person to this person to definitely myself. So it's definitely pinged off of her at some point. So I get why you think that, because I've had that thought too, and I think I am really glad that you caught on to that we didn't really let them, the audience off that easy to feel like, oh, there's a resolve. Oh, there's a forgiveness there. Then we can feel better about ourselves and move on. I think the point is they don't move on. And I want people to remember that.
Yeah, it's more of a story of coping and surviving. It's not the. I really like how you said that. It doesn't let us off the hook as the viewer to say, "Oh, look how they've thrived beyond," and you're very much. In fact, the guest character, we really don't. We don't have a sense of her internal life very much, other than what we can project and assume and feel based on how she's acting. I feel like the host more verbally trying to process, and in fact, to the point where. Even though your character doesn't display animosity exactly, just kind of like, no, we're not going to, nope, a couple times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It also typifies one of the things that I think is very important when you are connected to someone who has a tragedy, which is, I don't know what to say. And the most common mistake people make is they don't say anything at all, or they drop off some muffins and that's all, or something, right?
Yeah, totally.
And just saying anything. And in this case, this was a very interesting example of someone kind of doing, not just saying, right? Is saying, yeah, come over to my house. The implication is the guest asked, I think, to come over is what at least that's what it seemed like. It didn't seem like you.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the case.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But the different, but I wanted to get some of your impressions about that dynamic of people not knowing what to say, so they either say nothing or they awkwardly try to say something.
Totally, yeah. No, I think we talked a lot about that. I mean, my character gets to be a little bit more of the audience perspective as far as tiptoeing around a subject she doesn't know how to handle. And with their friendship being estranged and her survivor's guilt, what I experienced is I don't know how to go about it. I have to lean in and follow your lead, which we thought was really beautiful about these women coming back together, and sort of echoing what Laura said earlier and what you pointed out is what was really clear to both of us very early on in the development was the power of feeling seen. And what I found to be true, is that by leaning in and kind of what Gavin did when he wrote the script of I'm going to confront everything that feels so, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know where my guilt even belongs in your grief. Like it feels so sticky and human, and you're trying to sort so much, that when these women give Beth a presence driven by Laura's character and go into this imaginary play date, that what I think, and this is my point of view, is just that the guest is able to grieve and the host is able to be there for her in a way that they haven't been for a year. And that's the power, that's what the gift they give each other without knowing it. They stumble through it, through this very awkward dance.
And it captures it very well, once again, just from my own experiences of seeing lots of these different situations that it does capture, and you guys portray it very powerfully.
Thank you.
I was curious about your thoughts about the guests' sort of coping practices. I love the way that that's depicted. Can you talk a little bit about what the guest is doing to go through this experience?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple things going on. One is that, the first time you see the guest, all you're seeing is a very wide smile through a peephole, essentially, right? And that smile it stays pretty constant through most of the film. And that choice was made, that was in the script. So the choice was made because, when you've gone through something like this, and I think, we've heard this a lot from people that have gone through this, from mothers that have gone through this, that the days following, the weeks following, the months following, the years following, in their communities, when they walk around, when they go to the grocery store, when they walk on the street, they encounter people and they don't always want to be there for them, right? So they cross the road, they turn down a different aisle in the grocery store to avoid them because they make them uncomfortable, because somehow they're radioactive or they feel contagious. They don't know what to do or handle it. So we made the choice of this character to make people feel more comfortable with her, just did what she thought would be the natural thing to do, which is smile all the time, which then actually comes across as quite unnatural because it's a forced smile. Right?
It is immediately puts you at a little bit of a, oh, wow. It looks, there's a lot of pain contained in that smile. Yeah.
Right.
That must have been a little bit of work to convey that non-verbally, because that's a lot to say with your face.
So yeah, it's a lot to say with your face. Thank you. It was a tough one. There was a lot of work put into that smile for sure, because it is, you do have to find a reason for it. There's got to be a reason. It can't just be like, oh, this person's walking around with a smile and you're not quite sure why. There's a motivation for the smile, and the motivation for the smile is there existing at the same time as what is going on the inside, which is this just devastation. So there's that, that coping mechanism, which I thought was very profound by Gavin to really have insight into, and to have a visual aspect of something that goes on the outside world that we don't see in the film. And then the other coping mechanism, of course, is the Tetris game that she comes in with. And that's based on a very real study, an Oxford study about PTSD, that they find that if you play 20 minutes of a Tetris game or something like that has hand-eye coordination and moving things and a goal, immediately after a traumatic event, it diverts the neural pathways so that the images don't ingrain so deeply in your brain. So PTSD is a degree lesser than it would be if you were not playing that game right after a traumatic event. And this character, offers one to the host and says she has them everywhere. And I think we do that in our lives. We think of worst case scenarios and then we try to prevent them by doing things like stepping over cracks, like not walking under ladders. Like, there's a lot of things that we do in life to try and prevent these things from happening. And this woman has experienced the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. And now she's like, well, if I had this, it would have been better for me. So maybe everybody should have this. She says paramedics should carry these because this happens so often. Her point is, it could be you, so you should have this Tetris game just in case. She says, just in case.
Yeah, that was very powerful, and it is great to see some of those techniques that actually in real life they're doing more and more studies of things like that. We've done a couple episodes on the usefulness mentally and psychologically, even of video games, and how there's lots of studies about that where we used to just think, meh.
Right.
I was fascinated as well by the sort of regressive childlike behaviors that she literally was going through. Where did she sit? What did she eat? Would you make me a sandwich? As well, that there were these childlike behaviors that she was going through as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And that, that was one of the most powerful things, because I think she was, as I was going through it, you think to yourself, oh, she touched this carpet and she sat in this chair, and just the physical, like molecules, my molecules being in the presence of her molecules in a place that I didn't even know she sat, and I didn't even know she went, and I didn't even know she ate and felt that, it was such a powerful, powerful experience. Wow. That one really got me.
It got me. Yeah. I think I would challenge any parent to watch that without busting, breaking down. Amberlee, your character at one point reaches over and touches Laura's face. And I found that to be, once again, there was this comforting pureness about that. And it reminded me a little bit of the way a parent might comfort a child, as well as how a friend might have that intimate connection with a friend.
Yeah. Oh my God, Dwight, you picked up on all the fun things. Like, I wish I was on your shoulder when you were watching.
No, it is quite emotional to hear someone have.
It means a lot. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, it's a very powerful, so powerful show. I would encourage anybody. Is there this is often not something that you know yet, pre-debut at a film festival, but is there a way that people are going to be able to see this if they're not able to be at the film festival?
Yeah, I really hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, we are looking at many different avenues for that, right? So this is the beginning of our festival run. It usually lasts about a year. So we'll go around the country showing this film in different festivals. So you can follow us on Instagram, Playdate Film, and our website, Playdate Film. And keep up to date on those. And then, we hope to work with maybe different organizations, get this out there in a way that would help support already existing organizations that are doing the good work on this issue. And then we're working on a limited series based on this short. So hopefully it will have a life beyond this as well.
Is that the best place for people to follow, not just the project, but you guys and your work?
Yes. We're on there.
We're on Playdate. Yeah, we both have Instagrams. Laura Campbell, I don't know, Laura E.A. Campbell and
Amberlee _Colson.
There we go. and Playdate, I think, is just, Playdate Film on Instagram.
Yes.
And we can share the link with you.
Yeah, we'll share the links.
Oh, very much so. Yes. I'll get that from you guys to share that. Thank you so much for being on. I wanted to ask you one other question before we go, which are there any of these organizations that you're going to be partnering with that you would name specifically? I often ask people for a charity or nonprofit that they like that's near and dear to them.
Sure.
It doesn't actually have to be connected to our conversation, but if there is one that you'd like to throw out, then please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we're not officially connected with any of the organizations, but we like to highlight them. And Moms Demand Action is something that's very in line with this, obviously. And March for Our Lives is another one that we really think they're doing great work. So I would absolutely encourage anybody to go check them out, donate, help out wherever you can.
Wonderful. Well, best of luck with the festival. Best of luck. You're already in it, right? And
no, but it's still the year. It's still to come. Yeah.
Yes. And thank you so much for being on the Broken Braid today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to the Court Arts Podcast Network. To listen to more Court Arts shows, visit courtamparts.com.